Hello, everybody. My name is Cara Lindruth, and I am a chiropractor and an herbalist for almost 25 years now, which I can hardly believe. And I have for a long time, I've taken a special interest in neurology and the workings of the brain ever since I was in school. And it was the most feared and dreaded topic in our training. And I actually fell in love with the brain the moment I first actually had the unique opportunity of removing a brain from the cranium of a cadaver. And I was the person with the small hands, and I was able to slip my fingers in and lift the brain with the spinal cord attached so we could see the whole thing together. And while that might be something that would turn your stomach, and I thought it would turn mine, really it lit a fire in my imagination and really inspired me to focus on the function of the brain and how it affects the body. So I've been very excited in recent years to see just a burgeoning of research that's coming to the forefront on how natural care of our brains can really make a difference in both preventive and treatment of cognitive function. So I want to share with you just some simple ways that you can begin to take care of your brain, whether you're actually dealing with maybe a brain injury or some mild cognitive impairment, or you simply believe in preventive care like myself. So recently I've been mulling over just the thought of of preventive care and how there are many, we take care of our bodies in many ways. Like, for example, we might exercise even starting young before our body's deteriorating to try to maintain good health. But what about our brain? Are we really taking care of our brain in a preventive way? And why shouldn't we be considering, in a sense, taking our brain to the gym? So I've developed recently a simple cleanse that can be tailored to the individual depending on what they need and what they can handle, as a way of sort of taking your brain to the gym, giving it sort of a makeover or a renewal and refreshing it. And so, it makes sense to me that the preventive care is going to be our best approach to preventing more serious cognitive issues as we age. So if you struggle with symptoms of brain fatigue or just cloudy thinking, or even something simple as a little bit of mild anxiety or depression or trouble sleeping, or even if you have trouble making decisions, these can actually all point towards the need for a dietary change. So it makes sense to start with a cleanse if you want to renew your cognitive function. And it also makes sense to choose a cleanse or a level of cleansing that is going to work for you, that is going to match your busy lifestyle, or is going to match your emotional needs for food. It's not easy to do a cleanse for everybody. One of the reasons why I like doing a cleanse for repairing cognitive function is that a cleanse doesn't last forever. So you can choose a slotted amount of time, whether it's even 1 day or 30 days. You can still make change, and you can also get information about potential foods or lifestyle factors that might be undermining your cognitive function. If I'm going to be truthful with you, I actually really, really don't like cleansing myself. It kind of tortures me. It really turns my focus inward, which is hard for me. I like to be focused outward, helping people on the outside. And it also stirs some deep feelings of deprivation and wanting. And I find myself thinking and planning and plotting about different foods that I'm wanting. So I get a little bit of a tunnel vision and more obsessed with food. And these are feelings that I'd rather not be wrestling with. I find it very distracting. And also, since I eat a pretty clean diet, I try to talk myself into the fact that maybe I don't even really need to cleanse from time to time. But I know actually that the truth is that I do need to cleanse, and I want to cleanse. And this time of year, the time of year when the vegetables are fresh and ubiquitous, easy to get locally, easily to get organically, it's a perfect time to do a cleanse because it feels satisfying and nurturing to me. I'm craving those foods after a long winter of eating sort of cooked and heavy foods and comfort foods. So instead of trying to do a cleanse that feels depleting and depriving and discouraging, I'm trying to develop one that is satisfying and nurturing and sparking life, not just in our cognitive function, but in our whole body in general. So as I was thinking about crafting this cleanse, and I have a guide to share with you that goes through these steps, I realized that a cleanse is a little bit more complicated than simply choosing not to eat certain foods, or maybe even fasting altogether. That we want to take a more holistic approach when we are trying to set up a cleanse that's going to be successful. So I've outlined sort of 6 key elements that a cleanse should contain. The first element is balance. And when we talk about balance, we can talk about balancing everything in our life, whether it's our work life versus our play life, whether it is the level of this cleanse that we're going to do, where can we find balance for something that we can handle without it being overwhelming. And we can also look specifically at our blood sugar balance. One of the key imbalances that gives rise to brain fatigue is an unhealthy blood sugar balance. And many people swing between high and low blood sugar throughout the day. And we turn to things like sweeter things, sugary things, maybe not refined sugar, maybe, it's going to be simply dried fruit or even fresh fruit. But we're still turning to these sources of carbohydrates or caffeine to boost our mental energy. So episodes of low blood sugar can really deprive our brain from the much needed glucose, its primary fuel. And this can result in sort of foggy thinking, a lack of clarity, just general fatigue, especially when you're trying to concentrate and assimilate information. But episodes of chronically elevated blood sugar can also be a problem. This can trigger insulin resistance. And when we get insulin resistance, the neurons in the brain can't make use of the glucose that we consume. And so in a sense, even though we have glucose circulating around the neurons can't absorb that glucose, and they are starving, and that can create tissue damage and a lack of nourishment. So this will set a situation up where in the neurons that is very similar to low blood sugar because they can't use the sugar. In either scenario, the neurons are deprived of the fuel needed for healthy cognition. So taking a break from refined sweets and carbohydrates, or maybe all sweets, can be the first step to breaking a cycle of cravings, restoring balanced blood sugar, and restoring better, clearer cognitive function. So while this might seem daunting to some, for others it might be a practice that they're already involved in. So a cleanse is going to be different depending on what your personal habits with sugar already exist. So this can be one of the most profound steps that you can take to impact your overall health, including your brain function. Taking a cleansing break from sugar can help you identify the less obvious places that this non-nutrient is sneaking into your diet. For example, maybe salad dressing or crackers or other little places that sugar is added by the food industry to help us want to consume more of their product. So it can also help break sugar cravings and your dependency on it for energy throughout the day. And what can happen at the end of a cleanse is that you actually have a truer energy, you feel more energized, and your brain function is going to reflect that energy. The second step is what I call repair. So when we're thinking about doing a cleanse, we're not just depriving and breaking down. We want to repair. So particularly we want to repair the gut lining, because the gut lining can be degraded by a lot of foods that we eat, particularly in wintertime when we might be prone to eating comfort foods or carbohydrate foods, or particularly gluten. So one of the earliest signs of impaired brain function is digestive issues, such as chronic constipation, alternating with diarrhea, or difficulty swallowing even. And the brain communicates very clearly with the gut and vice versa. There's a lot of neuron function between these two. In fact, healthy output from the lower 2/3 of the brainstem should result in resting and digesting 90% of the time. In other words, 90% of the signals that are coming from your brainstem should be going towards resting and digesting and repairing the digestive tract, and not be in fight or flight. Only 10% of the time should we be stimulating the tracts for fight or flight or our stress response. This means that the nervous system should be predominantly focused on that massive task of breaking down and assimilating nutrients, rather than dealing with emergencies that require the body to shift its energy towards fight or flight and stress management. So I don't know about you, but I'm going to be honest. I push myself hard in my work and in my everyday life, and it takes time and it takes focus for me to remember to nourish my digestion. In other words, it might not just be taking supplements or not eating foods to repair my digestive tract, but it also can be taking time to sit and eat a meal without doing something else at the same time, not eating my breakfast while I'm driving to work in the morning, sitting down and eating, sitting down outside, getting a quiet space around me. For me, a little bit of social interaction is wonderful with my meal, but a lot of social interaction is distracting. So you have to find your balance there, but a cleanse is a good time to reassess your practices around your meals. So one of the things that we want to do in our cleanse is also just address the likelihood that you may be dealing with leaky gut. And so even if you are not sure, or you think your digestion is fairly strong, you can still take some steps towards preventing leaky gut. And one of the most simple things there is to avoid gluten. Gluten is now known to interfere with the integrity of the tight junctions that are essential to the integrity of the gut lining in the small intestine. And studies have shown that disruption to the tight junctions after eating gluten occurs in people even if they're not celiac or gluten sensitive. Now, many people are already avoiding gluten, so there might be some other components that they need to address, especially if they're certain that they have leaky gut. So in the guide, we're going to talk about that. And in my online Facebook group, we're just getting a little group together of people who are wanting some more intimate, private support. It's a free group, and we're going to talk about each of these different steps in a little more depth and support each other as we try to figure out, tailor a cleanse for each of us that really suits our body's needs. The third step in this cleansing regime is support. So a superior cleanse does more than just simply provide a list of everything you should not eat. It should also provide a list of foods that support good brain function, as well as foods that nourish and protect the liver and adrenal glands. And of course, when I'm saying foods, I also am saying food herbs as well. So phytonutrients from turmeric and ginger and Baikal skycap and berries, dark leafy greens, celery, parsley, rosemary, and highly pigmented fruits and vegetables. They have a powerful anti-inflammatory effect on the brain and body. And these nutrients can be an essential part of any cleanse, especially one targeted to support brain health. The next step is actually restoring, restoration, you might say. And really, when I'm talking about restoring, although the whole cleanse is restoring, I'm reminding us the importance of sleep. So there was a study done at Stanford University in conjunction with Washington University School of Medicine. And they found that deep sleep actually helps the brain cleanse itself of amyloid beta and tau, the sticky proteins associated with plaques and tangles, which are the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. So getting enough sleep, getting truly deep sleep, that can be a tricky thing for some people. In fact, some people find it almost impossible. So we're going to address some techniques that can improve the quality of our sleep. We're going to get some mindfulness about a practice to prepare ourselves for better sleep. And during the cleanse, we're going to be a little more disciplined about our sleep ritual and routine. And for you, maybe you already eat very, very clean and really have sort of an ongoing cleanse all the time, perhaps because you're dealing with a health condition ongoing. And maybe the only way you're going to do your cleanse is really to address your sleep and to focus very mindfully on what you can do if you're not sleeping. So a cleanse doesn't necessarily have anything to do with food. It might be different for you than it is for other people. The next step is to strengthen. And when we strengthen, when a cleanse is strengthening, I think it is much more powerful than one that is depleting. And I'm sure you can think of many sort of diet fads that are very depleting. Even they may be helpful, especially for diagnostic factors, but I really want to emphasize that you should feel good on your cleanse. You shouldn't feel shaky. You shouldn't let your blood sugar drop. You don't want to stimulate inflammation by letting your blood sugar drop all over, or your energy get low, and because those can be very toxic to the brain. So you really want to be nurturing and strengthening yourself. And oxygen is a key nutrient for brain cells, and one of the simplest ways to improve your oxygen flow to your brain is to exercise. So we're going to talk really specifically about an enzyme called endothelial nitric oxide. And this enzyme, which we call eNOS, is a nickname. It dilates the blood vessels. It improves the neuron's ability to use glucose, and it activates energy in the brain. And this enzyme is found in the inner lining of the blood vessels, and its release into the bloodstream is wonderfully triggered by exercise. Intense, vigorous exercise in short intervals is the most effective way to raise it. And this amazing enzyme that your own body creates, it's free, causes the blood vessels to dilate. It lowers blood pressure. It dissolves plaques in the endothelium, and it will flush the brain with a really long-lasting burst of energy. So if you're physically fit, you're able to incorporate some intense, vigorous exercise, enough to raise your heart and deepen your breathing. Then you're going to be cleansing your brain in another way. And then the final step in this cleanse is what I call uplift. So a cleanse can also bring relief and uplift the spirits. Part of cleansing is feeding the mind and the spirit and taking a break from activities that weaken them. This might be different from person to person, but might include activities such as meditation, yoga, prayer, deep breathing, or simply just connecting with friends. So if you are intrigued by this, or you're ready to take a little journey in towards caring for your brain and naturally promoting better cognitive function, please visit my website at caraslindruth.com. I'm sure there's a link in my materials that I'm handing out, and you can download for free the cleanse, which is Clear the Mental Clutter. It's absolutely free, and I would love for you to have it. I'm really hoping that this will make a difference for you or for somebody you love. And also my private Facebook group, Clear the Mental Clutter. We will be actively supporting each other through the month of May, June, July, and August, I hope. So you can start your cleanse at any point and join the group for ideas, for support. You can offer support to others, and you can ask for support from the group. It's a very intimate and private group. It's a pretty special place to be. So thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to seeing you again.